The cost of living crisis has affected everybody except the very rich. But how much should it really cost to live? I'm going to talk about alternative ways of living that are more affordable and also why the government is not going to bring the cost of living down. First of all, the government can't win. We've just had a change of PM. He's turned around and taken VAT off of our electricity bills, which is potentially going to save the average household about £40 a year. Whoopie-doo. You're not going to buy a lot with that. But they can't win because if any government comes in and tries to tax the rich, tax businesses and put corporation tax up and all of that kind of thing, businesses will fight back. Now, I remember when I was working at the bank, the managers there lobbied very, very hard to influence the way people voted. I remember in morning meetings coming in and our manager telling us who to vote for. Now, of course, that was probably highly illegal, but I know it happens within corporations. It certainly happened where I worked in lots of different workplaces where they try and influence, and that message comes down from the very top, the CEOs that want their businesses to profit. So if any government threatens any sort of major tax on a business, that's what happens within that business. And of course, these businesses have got thousands, hundreds of thousands of employees, if not millions of employees. And even if some of those are influenced, that could change the voting. And governments know that, so they're not going to upset people too much. And the thing is, prices are always going to go up. It's just a case of how much buy. Businesses now are too interested in increasing their share price, please their shareholders, to worry about what consumers think and what consumers can afford. And because we're told the cost of living is just going to keep going up and up and up, then businesses know that and they know that we expect it, so they carry on. I was thinking it would be nice to be able to just buy some land and just go and live on the land. And, they make the legislation in the UK very, very difficult to get around, to actually get planning permission to legally live on your land. Now, I know a lot of people do it, but they're probably looking over their shoulder all the time, threat of evictions, court cases, all that kind of stuff. It's not for your average person. And the annoying thing is, they're trying to cram us all into cities and towns and villages, mainly cities, so they can concentrate all of the money in there and control it. If you were to actually divide up the UK or certainly England into all the land, and if you were to take out all the cities and all the towns, all the built up areas, including roads, and just have the land, whether it's, agricultural land or woodland or whatever, there would be enough land to, once you've cut out all the cities, there would be enough land to give around just over an acre to every 29 million family or household in the country. Of course, they're never going to do that because all of the land in the UK is owned, and most of it is by, estate owners, trusts and corporations. So what can we do? The first thing that we did to combat the cost of living was to try for energy independence, or at least some independence. So, the annoying thing at the moment is when I pay my gas and electricity bill, I've got the bills down so much because we're barely in the house, or we're barely using any of the electricity or gas now. Most of the bill is standing charge, which is disgusting. We got our bill down from 300 a month to just 60 a month, and about 30 of that, literally 50% of it is standing charge. So, whether we turn the electric or gas on or off, or not, half of our bill is just to have the privilege of having the option to switch it on. To further my point about shareholders and CEOs and that kind of stuff, I saw a video the other day where a senator in the US was interviewing the CEO of Boeing, the aircraft and parts manufacturer, and he said, "How much are you earning?" And the guy didn't want to say, and it turned out he's earning about 39 million or $37 million a year, and he'd had an increase of 45% up from last year. And he said that his employees, most of his employees had a 1% pay rise across 7 years. How on earth do they justify that? I remember growing up in the 80s and CEOs were not earning anywhere near that. It's just got out of hand, it really has. So I'm loath to pay British Gas or other energy companies all this standing charge. I'm absolutely loath to do it, which is why we're selling our house and going to live off grid. But the first thing we did was we got a wood burning stove so that we could source our own wood and keep warm in winter without using the central heating, which uses up a lot of gas, and the gas prices were going up and down all over the place, especially with the situation in Eastern Europe. I had solar panels as a project, so we managed to just switch over to that and just use that for charging everything, powering most stuff, apart from microwaves and anything with an element. But that got our costs down. So that got our costs down to almost a point where we're just relying, or we're just paying the standing charge, which is ridiculous. So we looked into buying our own land and all the complications that come with that. But what we are going to do, and what we've realised, is that there's many people who live off grid on land owned by somebody else who is happy to have you on there and pay a bit of rent. Now, whether they've got the planning permission or not. Yes, it's a risk, but there are probably hundreds of thousands of people that do that, and generally the councils turn a blind eye. Is what I've come across. So, living off grid, it is a change of lifestyle, absolutely. And, there are a lot of people that still want their creature comforts and to live in bricks and mortar. But I think there is a fast growing movement of people who are prepared to give up that kind of lifestyle and live a little bit nomadically. I know a big worry is, what are we going to do with refrigeration? Because refrigeration has to be on 24/7. And we've tested out, on our last holiday, we've tested out with a little fridge compressor, 12-volt fridge on a 100-watt solar panel. The fridge cost a couple of £100, perfectly big enough for two. We used that for 3 weeks and just on a solar panel and a battery system. And it worked. It worked 24/7, no problem at all. Didn't cost us a penny to run it. A lot of people working from home now, you hear about digital nomads, people being able to work from anywhere in the world. You see it all over TikTok, people earning all this money, earning their millions and doing all this sort of stuff. But I think there's a lot of people actually doing it that don't all shout about it. And there are lots of ways of making money online, especially on social media these days. How exciting to be a young person in their 20s, decides to go off grid because they can't afford to rent or buy a property, and then just films it, sticks it up on TikTok or YouTube or whatever, and then just earns a full-time living just doing that. Living in their van, completely off-grid, solar panels, either a 5G internet or a Starlink. We've tried both. Starlink's very good, very expensive, but it's kind of the only one of its kind. So anyway, it's just a couple of ideas there. I'm going to be going into a lot more depth later on in the channel as to what we're doing for our off-grid setup, how we're going to be generating some extra income in retirement as well as our pension, which we'll be able to do from anywhere in the world, certainly while we're travelling in Europe and around the UK. And if that's something of interest to you, then please consider subscribing to the channel. There's some links in the description of a couple of things that we're using to do all this. In the meantime, best of luck. I'll see you on the next video.